The dawn has risen and I am back with another video. This one about a topic that's pretty close to home. A topic that nearly made me quit doing art altogether. But before we get into the actual video, the footage in the background is going to be of my comic, The House on the Hill, which you can go read on my website, or on Tumblr, or on Bluesky. It doesn't really matter which one. You get pages early on my website though, so maybe go check out that. Other than that, let's just get into the video. 2024 gave me the worst burnout that I'd ever felt in my entire life. I have had art block before, and I did burn out also back in 2022, but nothing was like the pain I was feeling now. It had been a long time coming that I was avoiding for a while. I'd been pushing myself even though I felt my passion and motivation dwindle. You can see this in the number of gaps I took during this last year. I had paused several times to try and fix the writing for the comic, as I felt the later seasons were weak and full of narrative issues. But then, finally, at the beginning of the summer, I looked at the script and all that I had to fix, and I lost it. I couldn't do it anymore. There was too much that was wrong, and it didn't feel like it was worth it to try and fix it. Because the problems ran so deep that I would have to scrap nearly everything to fix it. It took me hours to gain the courage to actually decide to end it. I deleted the pages that I had still been working on, and I made an update to tell everyone that it was over. I felt really bad about that. Like I was letting people down. But more than anything, I was letting myself down. I was so determined to finish it through the end, but it was just too much for me. And in the end, it was the best decision for my art. But the healing wasn't instant. In fact, I spent that entire summer doing nearly nothing. I made a couple pieces, but it wasn't anything big, and I didn't really feel like I was making any substantial progress. And towards the end of the summer, I began thinking. I knew I wasn't done with comics, and I certainly wasn't done with Nine Lives. I had even made an entirely new outline the same week that I had ended it, but I also knew I wasn't ready to jump back into a giant project like that. So instead, I looked for some small projects. I had outlined a lot of projects a while back, but none of them had any scripts finished, until I landed on one project. Instead of beginning an actual project, I decided to start a pilot for a story that had originally been a novel, but eventually I decided would be better as a comic. The Prince and the Merman. Or The Little Merman, as it was originally called. This pilot is completely non-canon, as it serves as only a proof of concept, with everything having the purpose of showing different things. But this comic took me forever to make. It was only 16 pages, but I was still trying to drag myself out of that burnout, and it was difficult to get out. But I kept going. Kind of. My original goal was to finish it by the end of my first semester, but this didn't happen. I found myself losing time and forgetting how much I love to draw. I dread starting, but once I did, I would love it. It was like my brain was traumatized by the overworking that I had done with Nine Lives, that it was afraid to go back and draw again. But my second semester changed something. I knew the only way that I would get out of that rut was to crack down and finish the pilot. So a couple more months of working, and I did it. It was over. It wasn't perfect, but it didn't need to be. And it was done. And I loved it. It was messy and slightly inconsistent because I hadn't made any full turnarounds beforehand, but it was done. And I thought it was great. And I was right. It got me out of the rut. I came out of it ready to jump right back into a new project, and it even gave me more sketchbooking motivation. I've made a bunch of mini comics, which is something that I haven't done in a long time, but I could never stop thinking about the one that failed. I remember opening classes that first semester, mentioning that I had been doing comics, but I couldn't really say that I was working on any particular one. For a while, I felt like none of that was a mistake. That all of the 3 years that I had worked on it were for nothing. And in a way, they were. I felt like it wasn't worth it because I couldn't finish it. And I felt so ashamed in myself for not finishing it. But when I look back at my art before Nine Lives, the art that I thought was so good at the time, I realized how far I had come. And I realized that those 3 years of a comic that I would never finish were 3 years of progress. And I don't think my art would be where it is if I hadn't done Nine Lives. It forced me to focus on my weaknesses, colors, value, poses, expressions, and learn how to make them better. I've learned so much that I'm going to have to use in future projects, and I'm so proud of the progress that I've made. I don't feel like I've disappointed myself anymore, and I don't regret trying it anymore. Sure, it wasn't a good idea, but I did it anyway, and it was fun. Except for the part where I got carpal tunnel from overworking, I do regret that part. I'm also glad that I stopped when I did. Sure, there are moments that I wish I had gotten to. Chris is gonna get possessed by Desmond for a little while, and a couple of those scenes were pretty cool, but ultimately, I think if I had kept going, I wouldn't have enjoyed the process. The moral of the story is, how do you avoid burnout? You kinda don't. Although there are some things you can do to help prevent it. Don't overwork yourself. I did a really bad thing, and I was putting out inconsistent pages each week for 9 Lives because each scene was a different length, predetermined by me script writing, but I had never really cracked down on how long each scene would be. So they were all completely different page counts, and I was completely fine with that when I was writing it. But then I realized how big the range was when I was making them. The range was from like 3 pages to 12 at the longest. I expected myself to finish all of those pages in a week. Don't do that. Set an actual number for you to do each week. I'm personally currently doing 3 pages for House on the Hill. Most webcomic artists that I see only post 1 to 3 pages a week. So if that's all you can do, that's perfectly fine. Maybe there's a reason people do only 1 to 3 pages. Be smart. Don't be like me. God, please, I'm begging you. In any case, you can check out my other stuff. I do a lot of art on Tumblr and Bluesky. You can find my website in the description as well. Again, for my comics, the 9 Lives archive is over there. Don't look at my webtoon page. And if you're not really into the art and just want to hear my talk, or just cry and scream about video games, I have a gaming channel that you can also check out. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Goodbye!